Without further ado, my brother, y'all brother, Brother Yusuf Bunchy Shakur.
How everybody feel? Hey man, how y'all feel?
Black.
It's an honor and pleasure to be here with you guys today. Come all the way from Detroit. So in Detroit, we say, what up, though?
What up, though?
So we're talking about Malcolm X, once known as Malcolm Little. And for me, Malcolm represented the best of his family. He represented the best of us as a people. And I say it in that context because we have to stop worshiping individuals. Like Malcolm didn't put himself on a pedestal to separate himself from the people. He was the best of the people. He became the best of the people because of the work that he did within inside himself. The work he did within inside himself came out of his own social structure of his family. If you know the story, his father was brutally murdered by the Klansmen, who was a follower of the Honorable Marcus Garvey. His mother had a mental breakdown. So when you look at his family, we clearly can see the devastation as a result of white supremacy. As a result of white supremacy. See, these things that we don't want to look at. Now we look at his mother gets a breakdown, she gets put away into a mental institution, his father gets murdered, his brothers and sisters get separated. But we don't look at the cause and effect. What created that situation? When Malcolm's in school in Lansing, he goes and they're asking him, what do you want to be? He said, I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a black lawyer. And the teacher says, little black boys, little Negro boys don't be lawyers. They be carpenters and things like that. That crushed his spirit. I mean, here's a guy who was an honor roll, the top of his class. Not any class, majority white students, but he's at the top. That changed the course of how he began to interact in this world. He goes off to Boston, and lives with his sister, and he's introduced to the street life. He's introduced to the street culture. And he becomes a streetaholic, addicted to that. See, when you're an oppressed human being, you find your self-worth in that dirt. That dirt may be selling drugs. That dirt may be pimping. That dirt may be whatever. And that's what happened. See, Malcolm he wasn't from Detroit. He was from Lansing. But he said, call me Detroit Red because nobody knew nothing about Lansing. But there's more Detroit Reds in my city that I come from than when they called him Detroit Red. Because of the same social circumstances that created Detroit Red over 50 years ago still exist in my community. Exist in Milwaukee. Exist in Harlem, New York. So we have to look at the greater circumstances of the legacy of this man, but also looking at the people that he comes from. So Malcolm was bold enough to be a teacher, but he taught from his experience. See, many of us want to talk and teach, but we don't want to teach from our own experience.
Come on, bro.
No, we come from alcoholic mothers. We come from abandoned fathers. We come from broken communities that's produced broken human beings. But once Malcolm fixed himself, the shame went away. The pain went away. A confident man came. But he just didn't grow out of the sky. Malcolm, he changed his mind of the knowledge that he received. His little brother tricked him. He said, if you want to get out of prison, I know how to get out. Hell yeah, I want to get out of prison. What you mean you got this secret? Stop eating pork. That ain't nothing, man. I'll stop eating pork. No, read this book. Message to the Black Man. He was introduced to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. They became a father figure in his life. Remember, his father was murdered. So again, it comes back to the family structure. Here's a man that's almost 20, 25, 26 years old, has a father in his life again. that sets a standard, that sets an example. that he begins to make atonement within himself. Because many of us who find ourselves in a system, they tell us that you're going to pay a debt to your society. We don't owe shit to the society.
Yes.
We owe it to our community.
Yes.
And that's when he came home to work on the behalf of the liberation and the struggle of his community to make it better. You saw a man who was committed. So when he came home to Detroit and was working with his brothers in the mosque in Detroit, man, we only got 20, 30 members. This should be packed. This message is that powerful. And Honorable Elijah Muhammad, man, we got something here. Here's a brother that believes. He began to organize mosques across the country. He was selfless like that. He was committed like that. So we talking about respect to X. We have to respect the principles that the man represented. See, you can quote Malcolm X, but you can't show up on time.
Right, yes.
That's a contradiction there. You can quote Malcolm X, but you can't complete a damn task.
Yes.
That's a contradiction there. You can quote Malcolm X, but you're not a good father. That's a contradiction there. You can quote Malcolm X, but you beat your women.
Yes.
That's a contradiction there. That goes against everything that Malcolm stood for.
Come on.
See, Malcolm was a teacher that taught for liberation. He didn't teach for accolades. He didn't teach to be recognized by somebody besides his people, to recognize the importance of fighting against a system. See, we got all these master teachers nowadays that ain't teaching shit. You know, all they went and did was go read a John Henry Clark, go read a Dr. Ben, and they got you fooled as if they wrote that. Because you're not doing your own damn research. You're not doing your own damn studying. You got guys that are giving themselves these self-titles now. You know, they say they generals and commanders. The only general I know is someone's a general of an army. We in the fucking war. Where you at?
Right, yes.
I don't see you on the battlegrounds. Because when I went to Ferguson, you know who I saw on the battlegrounds? Was the sisters with the weeds. With the young brothers with their pads hanging down. That's who I saw on the battleground. Holding our people down. Not the RBG brothers and sisters. And I'm not knocking anybody, but I'm saying it's the standard that we have to have amongst each other if we gonna be free. We have to be clear with ourselves, and we have to have critical conversation. Because the worst thing that's happened to us in these times, we're no longer critical of each other. And when I mean critical of each other, I'm talking about in an honest way, challenging us to be the best that we can be. And we have to throw this word out of our vocabulary. And this word is hating. Because that's a very deceptive and dangerous word of a people who are subjugated to self-hatred. See, Malcolm said the greatest crime that white man has ever committed against us is to hate ourselves. So I've been having conversations, folks been having conversations with me about black on black crime. And let's put that to bed. Because black on black crime is really white on black crime.
Yes.
We see ourselves through white folks.
Yes.
That's internalized oppression. And I'm not trying to minimize it. I'm not trying to excuse what we do to ourselves, but putting it in the proper context. And have to understand why our enemy force feeds us black on black crime when there's more white on white crime than black on black crime. By default, because there's more white people than black people. There's more white people that's on drugs. There's more white people that's on welfare. These are the facts in the society that we live in. But we're so brainwashed and so fed by what they feed us on the TV. Well, Fox 2 said it, so it gotta be true. I mean, how crazy is that? For you to say because a white media said it. But this is what we rely on. And the things that I'm saying today is not who I've always been. See, if you'd have told me 35 years ago this is who I will be, I probably cussed you out. I probably, man, why are you disrespecting me like this? Because I didn't foresee who I am today. So going to prison for a crime I didn't do, but I wasn't no angel. I gangbanged. I hurt my people. And God had a plan for me. And the plan was to meet my father in prison. But prior to me getting there, he had redeemed and transformed his life. And out of that relationship, he showed me how I can redeem and transform my life. He gave me a book, The Art of Barkerville, Malcolm X. That book had awakened my mind, had gave birth to a hunger. And one of the most important books I read was called Black Women in White America. Called Black Women in White America. When I read that book, I cried myself to sleep that night. Because these sisters vividly described how babies was cut out their stomach. Vividly described the psychological warfare that had been taking place and what we don't know, no longer want to talk about, slavery. And how it subjugated us to set that behavior within that situation. And I realized at the age, if I had died at the age of 19, my legacy would have been a gangbanger. And I had disrespected those who had died for us to be where we are today. That was a powerful epiphany that had happened in my mind. And I swore from that day forward that I would do everything in my power to continue the legacy. So when you see the young sisters doing their thing, that's the next Harriet Tubman. That's the next Assata Shakur.
Yes.
That's the next Ella Baker. See, when you talk about the civil rights movement, you talk about MLK. But it was Ella Baker who laid the blueprint. It was Ella Baker who said, strong people don't need strong leaders. See, that's what makes Malcolm so great. Because great people make great leaders. And he understood that. He understood the commitment that it took to work on behalf of a people. Malcolm was beyond his time. You know, we see the brothers in here now looking strong and beautiful. It was his idea to organize the FOI. It was his idea to start the Muhammad Speaks. He saw beyond when he joined the Nation of Islam to begin to work on behalf of the people and the things that was necessary. We had to be visionaries, but we had to be doers. He had a global perspective. He was a nationalist, but a revolutionary nationalist when he died, when he was taken from us. See, many of us look at the struggle from a small perspective of our blocks. This is a global situation. Because what's happening here in Milwaukee is happening in Detroit. What's happening in Detroit is happening in Rochester, New York. But we have to have the correct analysis. Malcolm said you can't be talking about revolution if you're not talking about land. The central thing of a struggle is about land. So when you look at the situation, what happened to black people is taking our names, taking our religion, taking our culture from us and called us color folks. And they named us Negroes. And when you looked on the map, you didn't see a color land. You didn't see a Negro land, which allowed us to be confused. Because when you talk about Europeans, you can look to Europe. When you talk about Asia, you can look to Asia. You feel where I'm going with this? So again, identifying who we are. When he started going to Africa, he understood the connection. That's when he came back and said, we're going to organize the Organization of African American Unity in connection with the Organization of African Unity. And when he was taken away from us before he can fully develop that. So it was over 500 activists